here with news about the Chinese spy balloon that was finally shot down, floating over the United States, doing God knows what, and which the utterly neutered and compromised Biden administration was too timid, incompetent, and quite possibly paid off to do anything about for days. Now, if you've been following it, here's a little recap of what happened with this balloon. On Friday, a giant Chinese spy balloon, presumably launched by the People's Liberation Army or some other Beijing intelligence outfit, was sighted over the American Midwest, with all sorts of equipment and cameras and God knows what else hanging off it to scoop up as much data, information, and signal intelligence as it could. Yet, while the balloon went public after eagle-eyed members of the American people spotted it, according to Bloomberg, the Biden administration had known about the balloon floating over American territory for an entire week, first hearing about it on the 28th of January. But gosh, they didn't tell anyone because they were hoping no one would look up from their phones and notice. But once people did figure out what was going on, it became a PR nightmare for the Pentagon, which had to come clean about the Chinese, what the Chinese called a wayward weather balloon. Yeah, right, in American airspace. Quote, clearly the intent of this balloon is for surveillance, the Pentagon confirmed to journalists on Friday, Australian time. Well, solved the case there, Sherlock. And indeed, it was pretty obviously not a Sunrise Hunter Valley Champagne breakfast hot air balloon trip that got blown off course by La Nina. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of think that there's a pretty obvious solution to the problem of a big unmanned spy craft floating over your country's interior. And it can be summed up in 2 words: target practice. Yet the Biden administration let this thing float around for days before taking the obvious route here and made this poor general go out before the press and act like the whole thing was no big deal.
And this is something that NORAD is closely monitoring. We do assess at this time that it does not pose a physical threat, as I mentioned, to people on the ground. So we'll just leave it at that.
No physical threat to people on the ground. Well, look, maybe not now, but what if the intelligence that it picks up, I don't know, maybe helps the Chinese in some future conflict with the United States? I mean, you don't have to be Sun Tzu here or General Clausewitz to know that when your enemy is gathering information on you, the aim is to cause physical harm to people on the ground. That's the whole point. And let's note that the balloon wasn't just hovering over cattle properties, but it was also over the 341st Missile Wing at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, which just happens to be home to a field of 150 nuclear-tipped ICBMs. No reason why you'd want to be spying over that, is there?